On this week's episode of the Hanford Insider, we'll be celebrating our veterans, Rob will have some community news for us, and I'll be back with your sports update. This is the Hanford Insider for Monday, November 11th.
Welcome to this special show saluting our veterans this weekend. I'm releasing it early so that you can hear about the exciting plans for Monday's celebrations. This is the Hanford Insider, the podcast where we dive into what makes our community tick, from local stories and hidden gems to conversations with the people shaping our neighborhoods. We're here to celebrate, explore, and connect. Whether you're new to Hanford or a longtime local, this is your source for everything happening in our town, from events and news to unique conversations with people who make Hanford what it is. Thanks for tuning in, and let's jump right into this week's community news. Last Tuesday, the City Council met to discuss many items. At the beginning of the meeting, they had the opportunity to pen 2 new HPD officers. One of the items on the agenda was about the relocation of Blue Door Massage Therapy from Irwin and Ivy to 1208 North Doughty Street. You see, back in October, the Planning Commission ruled that the business could not move to another location. Owner Ayla Tidwell rallied her clients and friends to appeal the ruling. After further consideration from the city and comments from those who in attendance, the city struck down the decision by the Planning Commission and decided to rule in favor of Blue Door moving to their new location. Congratulations to Ayla and her staff at Blue Door, and a special thank you for your support of our community by donating to so many local organizations. The other big item on the agenda was the sale of the old Kings County Courthouse to Esteem Land Company to flip the old building into Barrel House Brewing and other establishments by the summer of 2026. It's estimated that at least $10 million will be put into the modernization of the building. This company is also working on the Wealth Center building that houses Hola Cafecito and the Acai Bar. They have a proven track record with their successful projects in Visalia, Fresno, Bakersfield, and Paso Robles. I understand that I'm very biased on this issue, but then again, I don't know many people that actually made the trek up to Santa Cruz like my family did to see the Cooper House that was Max Walden's inspiration and dreams for Courthouse Square to become. Google it. It was a similar courthouse that was turned into restaurants, outdoor dining, and many shops before suffering a significant damage in the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake, and it had to be torn down. It's sad to see what the courthouse in Hanford was to have been and what the building has become. It's time that we give another investor an opportunity to develop this historical landmark. I'd hate to see it be torn down. The city doesn't have the money for needed repairs and upgrades. In fact, the city has spent over $100,000 a year just keeping it open. That money can now be put back to better use in the community. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox now. In other news, you've probably all heard by now that Revenue Measure H has passed with 60% in favor. Beginning January 1st, the city sales tax will be 8.25%. The additional 1% will go directly to public safety, roads, parks, and code enforcement. The city will soon be selecting members of the Oversight Committee, so contact your area city council member if you're interested in receiving more information about how to keep an eye on these expenditures. In the race for city council, Nancy Howes has been elected to fill the vacant position for Area C, and Kimber Reagan has been elected to fill the position in Area B. The new council members will be sworn in at a special meeting in December after the results have been certified. The Hanford Chamber of Commerce is planning the annual Christmas parade on the day after Thanksgiving, and they're accepting applications for entries. Find out more at hanfordchamber.com. Many local residents have been concerned about the growing number of homeless setting up a very large encampment at the old COS campus near 13th and 198. The Hanford Sentinel reported Friday that the city of Hanford is exercising the new camping ordinance to remove everyone from the property or risk arrest. This is the first large-scale test of this new ordinance. We'll have to see how it turns out over the next few days and possibly longer. Here are some events coming up on our community calendar. Hanford Winter Wonderland opens on November 23rd. Tickets are on sale now at hanfordwinterwonderland.com. The King's Players presentation of The Education of Angels continues at the Temple Theater. For tickets and information, visit kingsplayers.org. Kings County's Asian Experiences at the Carnegie Museum of Kings County is open each Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 1 to 5 p.m. Part 2 showcases local Asian communities in the years following World War II. Specific displays focus on the histories, cultures, and tradition of the Japanese, Chinese, Filipino, and Hmong in the area. For more information, visit carnegiemuseumofkingscounty.org. Make your plans now to attend the Veterans Day Festival in the Civic Park on Monday, November 11th from 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. This event is put on by the VFW Post 5869. The Remington is having a parade of cars on Monday. The community is encouraged to drive by the facility at 11th and North Star between 3 and 3:30 to show our appreciation for the veterans living there. Residents will be out on 11th Avenue waving to the cars as you drive by. You're encouraged to decorate your cars, wave your flags, and honk your horns. You'll hear more about that in the interviews coming up later in the show. The Main Street Hanford Christmas Tree Walk begins on November 12th and continues through December 10th in downtown Hanford. For more information, visit mainstreethanford.com. The Hanford Marching Band Showcase will be held on Thursday, November 14th at Neighbor Bowl. There will be performances by all 3 high school bands as well as the Pioneer Middle School Marching Band. The bands from Woodrow Wilson, JFK, Jefferson, Pioneer, and Parkview will be performing the national anthem together. The event is free, but donations are always gladly accepted. If you have an event coming up and you'd like some help getting the word out, let's work together. Send your information to hanfordinsider@gmail.com. Be sure to subscribe to my weekly newsletter to get a complete calendar of events. Well, it's great to be here at the Remington again with our stories from the Remington, and today our focus is Veterans Day, and with me is Army veteran Don Knight. How you doing, Don?
I'm doing pretty good for an old man.
Hey, welcome to the show. I know you followed some of the history pages that I have and everything. And
yeah,
that's
I've seen
awesome.
some.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about your family and some of the things that got you interested in serving our country.
Well, I was raised in Sanger, California. Born in Oklahoma, come out here in 43. And like I said, I was raised in Sanger, out in the country. We never went to town except we needed a haircut or something. And when I turned 16, I was getting a little bit big for my britches, and I thought I knew more than my daddy and mama did. And so I pushed my dad down on the bed, which I should have never done. He's a big man. And I took off, and me and my buddy went to see the Army recruiter. I was 16, he was 18. Well, he said, you're going to have to be 17. How can you do that? And I said, well, I don't know. He said, get your parents to sign for you, So I signed up at 16, joined the Army, 1953. Went to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, 16 weeks of airborne basic. Went to Grand Ole Opry. And then took a week off and come home. And then I went back to Fort Benning, Georgia for jump school and flunked out of jump school because my buddy had flunked out of jump school. I thought we was going to stay together. We didn't sign up together, but we'd been together. Mm-hmm. And he went to Korea, and I went to Germany. I was in Germany for 28 months. I had in the Army, I had 8 weeks of basic and then 8 weeks of heavy weapons basic training, and then I thought I was going to be in the infantry. Got over to Frankfurt, Germany, and Repo Depot, and the guy said, I need 3 MPs, volunteers, you, and you. I was an MP, military police, and an Army division, the 9th Division. Yeah.
He's got the hat.
still got the hat on. Yeah, it was best thing that ever happened to me. I come back. I found out that I didn't know everything, and I come back and we straightened things out and had a good life since then. 1959, I went to work at the post office here in Hanford. Worked there for 33 years and retired in 1992. Been here in Hanford ever since. Started down here at the Remington about 5 years ago, and it's a great place. It's My wife had dementia, and she was in a dementia hospital recovery thing, and it's like this, but it was secure. They couldn't walk away. She was up there for 5 years, and she finally passed away in 2021, 3 years ago. And that's when I had moved in here 2 years before that. I had moved over here in 2019. I got my 19s and all that stuff. But anyhow, I played a lot of music around here. I played music for years. And with the Gerry countryman band, I played with a whole lot of guys. Played drums.
That's right. I remember that.
Played bass and played drums and played whatever they needed. And that's about it. Got 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. The girl lives in Oregon. The oldest boy passed away, and the youngest one lives here. He's a manager of Holt Lumber, Buddy Knight. He runs a Holt Lumber. And I got 6 great granddaughters, 3 granddaughters, and 3 grandsons. I'm a happy camper. I really am. That's my life.
Yeah, you mentioned your service at the post office. I know a lot of people probably remember you working there.
I worked the window for 28 years.
Yeah.
And in fact, we just had a guy moved in, him and his wife, Duke and Rosemary Conchola. Maybe I should have used names, but Duke and I worked the window for a long time, and we had some cut up stuff we done up there. Guy walked in one day, and I was on the window. And if they want us to hold their mail or go on vacation, they come up and they sign an address card. They put their name and address on there and put hold the mail. The guy comes in. He says, hold my mail. I turned around and said, hold his mail. He said, is that all there is to it? I said, yeah, hold your mail. No, we finally got him straight, and I got his name and address and everything. But Duke fell to the floor. The guy was on the other window. He saw that, and he just reminded me of it. I'd forgot all about it. Been 40 years ago. He reminded me of it. Hold the mail. Hold my mail. Hold his mail.
Just tell him to hold the mail. Getting back to your service in the Army, can you tell us about maybe some of the places that you served in conflicts?
Well, I left. I got to visit a lot of places. I left New York City on. I had Thanksgiving in Camp Kilmer, New Jersey, in '53, and I had Christmas in Frankfurt, Germany, in '53, and that was the beginning. And I tell you what, it was a growing up stage. It was exactly. The Lord knew what I needed, and He gave it to me. It was a bunch of neat guys and a lot of fun, a lot of work, a lot of learning, a lot of growing up, in a lot of ways. And when I'll never forget, I wouldn't smoke or drink in front of my dad, even when I come home on leave at time. I had a younger brother. I come home. I was 20 years old. Well, yeah, 19. And I come home, and my brother was 17. He's sitting on the porch drinking a beer and smoking a cigarette in front of my dad. And I couldn't handle it. You know?
That's not something that
it was. I had gone from being just like my brother to growing up, and I didn't know how to handle it. So it took me a while to smoke and drink in front of my dad. But I guess that's respect. And I needed to give some respect from where it was needed. Yeah.
So this is Veterans Day 2024, and last week we shared with Margaret Cardiel. She was talking about the importance of remembering our veterans. Why do you think it's so important to remember the service of our military members? If we didn't have these people that volunteer to protect our country, we wouldn't have a country, really. If you take it down to the nth degree,
if somebody didn't go, I see these things when World War II come about. I heard a guy talking the other day about the draft. We don't need the draft anymore. Why we need the draft? In case we're going to war. The guy said, well, during World War II, we didn't have a draft. When World War II started, the guys come out of the field, they come out of the factories, they come out of everywhere and volunteered and went to war because it was needed. And that great generation was just. I mean, when you sign up, you take your hand and you swear that you'll uphold the Constitution and President of the United States. You're signing your death warrant. I mean, you could be killed. You know. Let me go. Yeah, let me go. I'll go. And it's a great thing. It's a great thing. If we didn't have those people like that, we wouldn't have a country. We wouldn't have a country. I just love the veterans, all of them, even the bad ones.
And you've kept up friendships with a lot of the people.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, you've had some past, but it's nice to be in a place where you're with so many veterans and they have a nice wall of honor and recognize all of you and do a really good job here of doing that. So, Don, thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on the show, and we look forward to seeing you in the future.
Thank you, Rob.
It's great to be here with Gerry McKee, who is also an Army veteran. And Gerry, how are you doing?
I'm doing good for 78 years old.
It's great to have you on the show, Gerry. Can you tell us a little bit about your family and kind of what motivated you? What was your driving force to sign up for the military?
Well, I was born and raised here in Hanford, California. 90% of my family lived in the area, and all of my uncles were generous. They worked for Anderson Clayton. And my mother had one sister still living in Texas and one brother that lived down up north, Oakland area. But other than that, we all lived right here with my grandma and grandpa. So my life was my family. I'm at every weekend we were at Grandma and Grandpa's that was possible. And that's about the way it was. I had uncles and aunts that lived in Lemoore and Tulare and everything, but basically everybody was here close, and every Saturday and Sunday we were at Grandma and Grandpa's. They had a little place on East Hanford. Actually, it was 3 houses from the wildlands, and he had half an acre, did all of his own vegetable growing, and had chickens and everything else. So, and he was a jolly old man. At one time, he worked for the railroad. He was a railroad detective. So he had lots of stories to tell. I don't know how you would say it. It was just family. It doesn't seem like nowadays it happens that way anymore. As kids, when we went to Grandma and Grandpa's, we weren't allowed in the house. We played outside. The only reason you went in the house was to use the restroom. And on his property, he had an outhouse down the far end, and of course the boys loved the outhouse, and the girls would go into the bathroom. But other than that, we played hide and go seek, kick the can, eeny, Annie over.
Yeah.
Yep. Until everybody had enough to eat and was ready to go home.
Good times.
Good times. We played a lot of horseshoes. He had his own little horseshoe pit. And
let's talk about your military service. What got you inspired to sign up?
Well, I didn't sign up. I was drafted.
Okay.
I was going to college over at COS to be an accountant, and I kind of liked to party too much. And my grades got down a little bit, and Uncle Sam said he'd like to talk to me. So I did my thing and went down there and Next thing you know, on December the 5th, 1965, I was in the Army until September the 16th, 1967. The day I got home from Vietnam, I was discharged from the Army, all in one day. We left Vietnam at 2:30 in the morning on September the 16th. I got to Oakland Army Base at 6:45 on the morning of the 16th. And by 9 o'clock, I was here in Hanford and a civilian, basically. So
what did you do in the Army during your
I
time
was
there?
a forward observer for a 4-deuce mortar platoon. So I spent most of my time with the line companies, Charlie Company mostly. And then after an operation, be back to my guys in 2 days and be gone again for another month.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that,
So why do you think it's important for us to remember our veterans who have served our country?
well, being like at the time when I was drafted, it was before all of the hoopla about being in Vietnam and all this and all that. And it's just more or less a field of duty. If you enjoyed your life up until that time, you were asked to help defend it. Excuse me.
It's okay.
So it didn't take a lot of moxie or whatever. You just went and did your job. I mean, we were all young guys, and once we got through all of our basic training and stuff, we were all brothers, and we would do anything for each other. And,
It's an honor.
yeah.
It's an honor.
But it didn't take us long once we got to Vietnam to figure out, something wasn't right. I mean, we all watched war movies, John Wayne and everything else and all the good war movies, and we realized this wasn't fought the same way. When we got to Vietnam, I had 22 days in country before I ever got there because we went on a troop ship as a whole division. Half of us went to north to Pleiku and half of us down south to the Iron Triangle. So I got the Iron Triangle part. But our first day, actually with our feet on the ground, was spent on a flatbed truck going cross country to our new home. And I've watched movies sent and news deals, and everybody thinks the 9th Division started our base camp. Well, the 9th Division didn't start our base camp. When we pulled in there on those trucks, the CBs were in there still pushing the berm and stuff up. And we spent some time there. As our commander come and told us, we're going to be here for a couple of months, pulling 1 and 2 day operations in the area until we learn the country, and then we'll start big time. Well, we did that for about 2 weeks, and we were coming back from one night, 6 o'clock in the evening, coming through the gate. He come over the radio and said, "You got 6 hours to load up everything you can carry. We're moving to a new base camp." Well, it didn't include our squad tents and stuff, but just personal belongings and everything. When we left out of that base camp, we were in a mechanized unit, and our gun track was full of beer from floorboard to the top. And that was it. It lasted us 4 days, but no ice. We went through Saigon at 2 o'clock in the morning. We stopped at Tonsadut Air Base, spent 2 days there, and they let us go to the PX and everything. We got back out on the road again. We went to Cu Chi, the 25th Infantry Division base camp. We spent a couple of days there, and for the next 15 days, we didn't see anything but jungle and rubber plantations and rice paddies.
Wow.
we pulled into our new base camp, which was Dao Tang. It was a small Vietnamese village, but it was also an ARVN base camp. And the CBs were there pushing down the ARVN base camp and making us one. So we pulled up on the side of the hill. Across the rice paddies was a rubber plantation all the way around, except for one side was just out in the jungle. And we were told, Lieutenant said, I'm going to go find out where we want to put our weapons at. Okay, so we sit there. And this little town, it was headquarters for Michelin Rubber Plantation. So they had two big colonial mansions and a big above-ground swimming pool. It was all full of holes, but at the time. And they had a runway. So we're sitting over there with our gun tracks waiting for the lieutenant to come back. And here come 3 C-130 Caribous, the small 2-engine. And 2 of them, they flew over town and did a couple of tight circles and hit the runway. The third guy, he went out over the rubber plantation and did him a nice glide path and didn't make the end of the runway.
Oh, no.
So we all looked at each other and said, okay, this is real now. And we got situated and off in the jungle we went, 30 days at a time. And I went with Charlie Company, and the other forward observers went with Bravo and Alpha Company, and the guns stayed with Headquarters Company. So my assignment was, if you get in trouble, call a fire mission. And being as we were, a 4-deuce mortar is a 106 millimeter, 25-pound shell, and you can only fire it 3 miles at max. It's a 105, you can do 8. But we got to do our training and practice right there at Fort Lewis, Washington. Because we were in direct fire, we didn't have to worry about long range. The 105s had to go over to Yakima, Washington and learn how to shoot. But we were faster than them. We would always have contests. We'd go out in the field, we'd get a call, set your guns up, fire mission here. While we were at Fort Lewis, Washington training, I had a Jeep issued to me with a trailer and a driver and a radio. He was my driver and radio operator. And his name was Carlos Ugardi. He was a little bitty Puerto Rican fella that I don't believe was even a naturalized U.S. citizen, but being from Puerto Rico, and he lived in New York, and he was my driver. Well, I found out into AIT that he didn't even know how to drive. Didn't have a driver's license or nothing. So we went out on a 2-week operation there in Fort Lewis on Weir Prairie, and my lieutenant told me to take him out and teach him how to drive. So we went out on the back roads there, and it's all gravel roads, and we were going around, and he was getting pretty good, and had the trailer on the back, and we started to go around the corner, and he's going a little bit fast, and the Jeep started to slide on the gravel, and I told him, don't touch the and he stepped on the brake pedal, and we went boom, boom.
Oh, no.
So that's how I taught Carlos how to drive. I went on R&R to Bangkok, Thailand. And when I was in Bangkok, Thailand, my lieutenant sent Carlos to do my job. He didn't ever go with me before because there was no room for him.
Yeah.
So he sent him to do my job, which he knew how to carry a radio and operate a radio. That was it. He didn't know anything about calling a fire mission or anything. And he didn't survive. And of course, when I got back, I was kind of ticked off and that they sent him out there. But just go on.
Yeah, and those are the stories.
And those are the stories.
Yeah.
Being as we were sent over there as a whole division, and they started wondering about how in the world you're going to send a whole division home and then replace them. Well, they started transferring guys into different units and transferring people from different units with different amounts of time to serve in. They were mortarmen and stuff, but they were from they had different times to go. Some of them were fresh, some of them were been there for almost a year already or whatever. But I got transferred to the 9th Division. And lo and behold, the 9th Division base camp was in our original base camp.
What do you know?
So I went right back there, and I spent a few days in base camp because they were out in the field, and I got to drive Miss America around in my Jeep.
And there's a memory.
Yeah. And then I got sent out in the field, and of course, this outfit was ground pounders. So when we went out to the field with our mortars, we went in a Chinook with the mortars hanging underneath. So that was different. The only thing different was, for me, when we got to our little base camp and stuff, I got usually put up in a little, what they call mosquito helicopter, little bubble job like you see on MASH. And we would fly around the area and pick out spots and check while they got set up. So that was a new experience. Well, like I said, I went to Bangkok, Thailand. When I went to the 9th Division, they asked me if I'd ever been on R&R before. I said, no. So I got to go to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
Oh.
And 5 days there. And there, of course, I was a new guy, so it was kind of, they had to test me. And I was put in charge of a mortar squad. So I got tested.
You certainly
but,
did.
you know, it's still all brothers. And when it come time for me to go home, I had papers in this hand for 7 days in Australia and papers in this hand to come home. And it only took 3 days. From the time I got my go-home orders till I was in a plane headed for home was only 3 days. So I didn't have time to...
Yeah.
If I'd have written a letter telling them I was coming, I'd have got here a week before it did. But anyway, like I said, we got to Oakland Army Base, and they let us sit for a while and eat breakfast, and then they come in and started giving us the re-up speech. A few guys went for it, but most guys just started booing and hissing and got in trouble. They said, "You're still in the Army." So, but they started de-essing us, and I did one thing wrong. The last thing you do is get paid when you walk out the door. And they don't care where you tell them you're going. They pay you mileage for going home. And I said Fresno instead of New York or whatever, but I got $11. I got $11.26.
Wow.
For travel pay. And of course outside was taxi cabs galore, and 4 or 5 of us got in a nice big stretch taxi cab and spent $3 each, and they took us to the airport. Got into the airport and went up to the United desk, and I said, "When's the next flight for Fresno?" "It's loading now."
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. So I paid I think I had 40 cents left out of my travel pay to get a military standby ticket. And I had enough time to stop and call my friend here in Hanford to pick me up at the airport. And I beat him there. But then there wasn't none of the protesters or none of the spitters or nothing. It was 9 o'clock at night, and it was only in 67, so they hadn't really gotten strong yet.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any of that. But then we got home, and then all the stuff in the news and this and that and everything, so I didn't even really talk about it. Didn't want to. But as the years went on, everything started cooling down. Well, I anybody wanted to ask me a question, I'd tell them what I did and how it happened and what I thought.
Yeah,
But,
that's so wonderful for you to share your story, and I appreciate you sharing it with us this afternoon. And I want to thank you for your service, Gerry. It's incredible to meet you, and thank you so much.
I was happy to do it.
It's nice to be here with Randy Firestone of the Remington, and she's allowed us to come to the Remington and interview the residents here that have some incredible stories to tell. And they have a special event coming up on Veterans Day that she'd like to let you know about.
Thanks, Rob. We really love to be able to have our veterans tell their stories. They have wonderful legacies and great veteran stories. And in celebration or in honor of Veterans Day, we have a drive-by event on Monday, the 11th at 3 o'clock, 3 to 3:30. Our veterans will be out on 11th, waving, celebrating, and just looking forward to hearing your honking and your words of encouragement as you drive by and see the veterans at the Remington.
And now it's time for Hanford Insider Sports with Eric Bentley.
Hanford High took the field on the biggest stage Friday. Unfortunately, the Bullpups fell to Clovis High 49-31 in the Central Section 1AA playoffs. It was a close game after one quarter, with Clovis holding a 14-6 lead, and the second quarter played out much like the first, with the halftime score 29-12 in favor of the Cougars. It was the third quarter they got away from the Bullpups, though, as Clovis rattled off 20 unanswered points to put the game out of reach. The Bullpups showed fight in the fourth quarter, scoring 3 touchdowns, but unfortunately, it was too little, too late. The Bullpups finish a remarkable season 10-1 and WYL champions. As always, if you have any scores or story ideas, be sure to send them to hanfordinsider@gmail.com. I'm Eric Bentley, and this has been your Hanford Insider Sports Report.
Well, that's all the time we have for this week's show. If you enjoyed this podcast and you'd like to show your support, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/Hanford Insider to make a donation. If you'd like to join the Hanford Insider email list, stop by my website at hanfordinsider.com to sign up for updates. You'll also get an exclusive copy of my newsletter in your inbox each week. I also need your help getting the word out about the show by liking and sharing on social media or telling a friend. For more information about the show, you can find this podcast on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, and YouTube at Hanford Insider. If you have a show idea, be sure to email me at hanfordinsider@gmail.com and I'll look into it. Thanks for listening. Have a great week.